Well, hello. Welcome to my new channel, which is called Mistakes Were Made. And I guess let's just get into the whole reason for this channel. As the title may allude, we have certainly made mistakes in our lives and we need to fix them. We have a fairly, I'll say, something with the potential to be catastrophic coming up in our future, and that has made it very clear that we need to start taking a much more serious, a much more mature, a much more deliberate hold of our life, our lifestyle, how we're going about things, and stuff like that. And unfortunately, this is something that I've wanted to do for a while, that we've needed to do for a while. It is a recognized situation, but it's just been really easy to let kind of life go as it's going to go because there weren't any really immediate consequences to how we were going about our lives. And that was clearly stupid because eventually life does catch up with you. You know, things are not going to always be sunshine and roses. And while we have been living a lifestyle that we can, for the most part, afford, the way we've gone about it has created something unaffordable. And where we were in a position to really be concentrating on the future and building the opportunity for ourselves to be comfortable in the future, to be debt free, to be able to live and maintain the lifestyle that we currently are, but from a more strategic and solid foundation. We did not do that. And so now, now the hens are coming to roost. And unfortunately, we've got to deal with it. So I guess a little bit about myself. Well, first, uh, basically, this channel is going to be about us getting a handle on our debt and eliminating it. I definitely want to become debt free, including our mortgage, as well as building up not just an emergency fund, but a nice nest egg, and then being more intentional about the way that we use our money, which doesn't necessarily mean not being able to do the things that we find fun and exciting, or being able to make the purchases that we want to make, or updates to the house or a property or whatever. But just making sure that we are financing it in a way that is responsible and is keeping the future in mind. I am middle aged, I guess, at this point. I'm in my late 40s. My partner just recently turned 50, and we both have decent jobs. I mean, we both, he has a very good job with great, wages and benefits. And my job's not anything to sneeze at as far as what my wage and stuff is concerned. However, because of how we've utilized that, we have definitely put ourselves behind the eight ball. The bulk of our debt is our mortgage, but we do still have quite a bit of debt in credit cards and in a car loan. And with what is coming down the pipeline, I'm really not sure how we are going to move forward to effectively clean that up, because our situation is going to be very different in the next, maybe this month, next month, than where we are now and have been, in the past from a financial standpoint. So we do own a home, as I mentioned. Well, we've got a mortgage, but we do own a home. We've got a bunch of pets. We do not have any children. So we've we've definitely been very I don't want to say selfish with our money, but it has been focused on our needs and more specifically wants, and definitely not looking to the future. I've joked, multiple times with my coworkers that, I'll probably be working until I die. There's not going to be any kind of retirement for me. Don't know if Social Security is going to even be there by the time I'm eligible to retire, which is in about another 20 years or so. But even if it is, am I going to be able to afford to not work? My gut instinct says no. And I don't have a lot saved for the future to help augment that. And so, that's part of something that we need to tackle. Um, and so this channel is to kind of do our own public shaming of how we've lived our life, meet it head on, put it out there, try and make sure that we're being accountable, we are following up and taking steps to improve the situation, especially the way that it's likely going to be. That said, while I am a little bit familiar with some of the debt reduction processes that are out there, I've heard of the debt snowball before. I've never been a party to any kind of program in particular. I've never followed anything specifically, and really, it's just been recent, um, while we're kind of figuring out this pending situation, that I've been watching certain YouTube videos, trying to get ideas on how we can move forward in the most intelligent way, in a way that's going to be most effective, most efficient. So basically, we are a smidge bit, whatever, over $300,000 in debt. That does include our house. About 48,000 of that is credit card. We've got about 18,000 in a car loan, but the rest of it is the mortgage. Now, where it becomes extremely urgent that we have a plan, is the fact that at some point my job is going to go away. So the company that I work for recently went into bankruptcy, and a large number of people lost their jobs. There was a much smaller group of people who were kept on to essentially usher the company through the bankruptcy, help bring money in, get goods that are stuck in the system to the customers that they're supposed to get, and figuring all of that stuff out. And me and my team were part of that smaller group. So huge blessing, absolutely, because we have a steady paycheck, and a paycheck that I know the amount that's going to be coming. But at the same time, it's been very open-ended as to how long we are going to remain employed. And this particular bankruptcy, as far as I'm aware, is not going to be one where the end result is the company rises from the ashes as a new entity and hires people, or jobs will be brought back and things like that. As far as I know, once it's done, it's done. So I don't really have anything to look forward to as a possible saving grace to come in and make the situation not as horrible as it is. So, oops, sorry about that. So, bottom line is, at essentially any time, it could be in the next couple of weeks. It could be at the end of this month. It could be next month. I find it hard to believe that it'll go into December, but even if it does, I really, really don't think that it's going to extend into the next year. I could be wrong. I am not familiar with bankruptcy processes, and I'm not familiar with bankruptcy processes and how they affect a corporate entity. So, we're all kind of flying blind, really, with this situation. But, you know, the end result is, as far as I'm aware, I am not going to have a job and probably sometime in the next couple of months. So, I guess the next piece is, well, what are we working with here? As I mentioned, we're over $300,000 in debt, and what I've done is I have listed that debt out. And I apologize. I've watched tons of videos and they're all very fancy. Well, not all of them, but many of them are very fancy and have nice areas of doodads and knickknacks and you know um, fancy planners with all sorts of little gewgaws on it. That's not me. I'm fairly bare bones. I'm not a fancy pants sort of person. I also wanted to try and avoid getting lost in the prep of trying to figure out how we're going to get our financial life together. Um, I think it can be very fun and an easy way to bring some, happiness and joy into a process that's probably not really that fun and exciting to do. To get all the pretty things and the cute little accessories and setting stuff up and writing things out and getting lost in that process and failing to focus on what is really the bulk of what you're trying to do, and that's saving money, getting your debt knocked down. That I hope that doesn't come across as like a slight to folks who do have really nice setups and everything. Hey, I absolutely believe whatever puts you in a position in an environment that helps you get to the goals that you need to get to, do what you got to do. That's just not me, and I want to warn anybody who might be watching that this is probably about as fancy as it's gonna get. And I'm not great with the camera. I'm not, YouTube is not something that I have a lot of skills with. I do have another channel, but it is about my hobby and not something that I'm going to be really mentioning here, because this is a completely different situation. Though I will say that that hobby has certainly contributed to some of our credit card debt. But anyway, suffice to say, this is not going to be professional. It's not going to be slick. It's going to be me at my scratched up dining room table with my little jar that I was able to find because I couldn't find anything else to put my only splurge, which are these kind of pretty markers and stuff to write with, and just plain old, pads of paper. So anyway, we're already like 15 minutes in and I haven't gotten to the important piece. Okay, so hopefully you can see this pretty well. You can see here where I've highlighted $312,883.91. That is, at this time, the total that I am hoping we will eventually be able to wipe away. Now we can look up here and see the debts that we currently have. I've got a loan from my mother. This actually used to be about $17,000. We did a refinance of our home 6 or 7 years ago and took some money out of the equity so that we could remodel our kitchen and a bathroom. And the amount that we expected we would need was short, so she was gracious enough to not only lend us the money, but it's at no interest. And she has been so um, lovely about, not hounding us for money or anything like that. And we have certainly taken advantage of that. We try to save up, $250 a month so that every quarter we can give her $1,000, or a couple of years we were able to save it up so that we could give her $3,000 um, at the end of the year. But since all of the craziness in the last few years, we have definitely fallen off of that pattern. We have a Discover card that's at $11,500. It is a 19.49% interest rate, minimum payment $300. A US bank account with almost $9,000 with a 24.24% interest rate, about 200. This is kind of hard to read, but it's $283 for the minimum. Bank of America, which is at 12,000, a bit over 12,000. It's currently at a 0%, but that is an introductory rate, and part of this 12,000 will increase in interest rate in February of next year, and the other portion of it will increase in interest rate in September of next year. Currently, the minimum is $125. We've got Amazon, and we're at almost $5,100 there, 29.99% interest rate, and the min is $175. We have a Citi, which is at $775 or $7,750. This too is at a 0%. So it's got the little asterisk because it is an introductory rate. It is, I cannot remember what the terms are as far as when that introductory rate goes off, because we actually just recently opened this with the idea of, let's move some of our higher interest rate or higher payment items to a new card that has 0%. Hopefully that will help save on our interest payments, and we'd be able to get the debt down a little faster. Whether that was actually a good idea, I'm debating, especially considering the situation that we're in. I am guesstimating that the minimum payment, because it will be 0%, will be $80, but that puts us at almost $48,500 in credit card debt, plus the loan for mom, which also comes to, for a monthly cost, for a minimum of $1,214. Now, my partner does have a line of credit and a car loan. The line of credit is at $1,663.83, which has a minimum to pay of about $50. His car loan is currently at $18,000, almost $19,000, which he pays $400 a month on, and so that's a total of $20,579.72. Now, I included this on here because, his debts are my debts are his debts. We do have a joint account where we both deposit money into it, but we also both have separate accounts where the rest of the money that he gets from his paycheck goes into his account. And I very much always recommend that everybody should have their own separate banking entity, checking account, savings account, whatever it is, even if you are commingling your resources in a shared account somewhere. I just feel that that's very important. Other people may disagree, but it makes sense to me. I'm not really tracking this because both of these are all paid himself. I'm not involved in him paying this stuff off. The amount of wage that he retains from his paycheck that doesn't go into the shared account, um, takes care of these. So then our mortgage is currently $243,828.54. And that has a required minimum payment of $1,672.34. We have a Rocket mortgage, and we did set it up so that we pay every 2 weeks. And then at the month point, they go and they take the 2 weeks, the 2 weeks of payment, and then apply it to the monthly bill. But what that does is by the end of the year, we essentially have made an additional month of payments towards the loan. And so, we're paying down interest a little bit faster that way, making additional payments that way as well. What I will say is we are also, though this is our minimum payment, we are also paying a little bit more each month, or each paycheck, not each paycheck, goodness, each withdrawal or payment date. So we're paying $974.55, which actually comes to $1,949.10. So by the end of the month, for that monthly payment, we are also adding an additional $276.76 that goes specifically to principal. And again, it's not a ton, but it's a little bit of something to help us get to paying down our mortgage just that little bit faster. Okay, so income. So here we can see, as a general rule, I am making or bringing home $1,630. I get paid 2 times a month, so on the 15th and 30th or 31st. And he has a deposit of $1,400 that comes in every 2 weeks. So if we're looking at it at a month standpoint, $3,260 for me, $2,800 for him, for a total of $6,060 every month. Yeah, to me, that is a significant amount, and it's one of the reasons why in the past I was like, we have got to figure something out, get ourselves right, because we are making way too much money to have so much in debt, and it just never coalesced into taking some kind of action. It's been very nice to be and feel comfortable, and to an extent, we can't go crazy, but to an extent, if there's something we want to purchase, we can just go purchase it. It's, oh, I don't feel like cooking, so for 3 days out of the week, I'm going to go to a fast food place and get something to eat. If we do go out, to dinner, which we don't do a ton of, but when we do, it ends up being, relatively, what I consider relatively expensive. I mean, there's a lot of frivolous things that we purchase, things that slip under the radar, so you don't really see the money going. And especially because we use our debit card, it's you're not actually counting the money out and seeing it go away. It's just monitoring the account to make sure, you're not getting light. And if something happens to be or feel a little bit uncomfortable for using the debit card, then we go and we use the credit card. And we've been able to maintain just fine. But those days are going away. So right now, or at least the last time I checked, we had about $5,200 in our checking account. We have $500 in one of our savings account and $175 in the other. The goal is to get to that $1,000 emergency fund. So we have about $325 more to do. What we're currently doing is saving $225 every month. Um, so, assuming that I stay employed in the same employment that I currently have for this month and at least part of next month, we should get to that $1,000. Um, however, as we can see here, $1,949.10 is a required payment. Now the good thing is the money that he is contributing into the shared account covers our mortgage payment for the every month, plus a little bit more. The downside is if well, I shouldn't even say if when I lose my job, if I don't have an immediate replacement, and or the replacement doesn't cover the same amount of income that I have been getting, which at this point I've kind of resigned myself to that being the case. Right now I'm in a supervisory role, so my wage is a little bit higher, and I am not a fan of that kind of work. Um, I've been doing it for 10-ish years, 10 plus years now. And I have to tell you, when I first got started in this type of role, I was taken aback about how childish grown adults can act in a work setting. It was definitely an eye opener for me. And through the years, I mean, the vast majority of the folks that I've worked with who have worked under me, I've loved them to death. They've been wonderful, but there have been those handful of folks who just make me shake my head, and I can't believe that the way how they act. And unfortunately, it's one of those, small group of rotten apples spoiling the bunch sort of thing. I would really like to avoid doing anything in a supervisory role. But with that, most likely will come a significant wage reduction. And quite frankly, I have not been in the market for a job for almost 20 years. This place that I have worked for 17 years, and I've loved what I do. But I know that things have changed in that time, so I don't feel super prepared for entering the job hunt process. I am certain that the way I would normally tackle that, almost 2 decades ago is probably much different than one would do it today. So I'll throw out there, if any of you have been in this position where you've recently had to enter the job market and try and find a job, in the last year or so, and you have some ideas, suggestions, tips, tricks, those sorts of things, please. I am open to all ideas, all guidance, things like that, because I am incredibly nervous about this process. Yeah, looking around, I know I'm kind of deviating off a little bit from this whole the debt confession thing, but looking around the jobs that I am seeing that I feel like I'm qualified for, because I do not have a degree. I have my high school diploma and my years of work experience going for me. But the ones that I'm seeing that seem like I might be able to do them, they definitely do not pay enough to put us close to this $1,630 every, twice a month. So if we are at the minimum needing to pay $1,214 for our credit card debt, and I think this next page has, yeah, and then our steady monthly payments, which really there's not a lot we can trim. Yes, we have Netflix. Yes, we have Disney Plus. We could knock those two off. I think we will be getting rid of Disney Plus. I'm pretty sure that we're going to go that route. But my car insurance, his car insurance, we need those. Obviously, we need electricity. We need our natural gas. We need our garbage. Um, I think in this day and age, cell phone service that's a requirement. Now, potentially, we could get something that is a little bit less. So that's something that we could look at. Um, Internet. I absolutely have to have reliable internet. I, which it's kind of funny to say that about Comcast, but I won't get into that rant. But the job that I currently have has translated into a work from home for the last about a year now. So I have to be able to get online. That isn't to say that I wouldn't have whatever new job I get will be work from home, but I do have a stuttering, failing, not very revenue boosting side hustle with Etsy. So the way that I do my work, I do need internet for that as well. And also our water bill. So really, there's not a lot in our regular monthly costs that I feel we can trim the fat from. And that comes to $946. So we're looking at about $2,100 plus dollars in essentially fixed costs. And that's not going to be made up by the overage of his income after the mortgage payment comes out. And not only that, but if we're only making the minimum payments on the credit cards, then we're not getting anywhere. So we absolutely need to be making more impact on those. Trying to remember. Okay, yeah. So what I did was I did make a sheet for each of the debts and kind of a plan of how much with the minimum that we pay for each month. And then I will document exactly how much I did pay. So potentially might be more than 250, hopefully not less. I mean, obviously in some of these I can't do less, like the credit cards ones, the min is the min. So I filled out one of those for each of the debts. And oops, come on. I mean, things like this Discover card, they're obviously not going to get $300 a month paid off by August of next year. The math doesn't math on that, but this is just a start. Okay, we'll just here. I also put together, our pseudo budget, because that $2,100 does not include anything for food, groceries. It doesn't include anything for gas and anything for entertainment. And this is the point where, the folks that are talking about you got to buckle down and there is no entertainment. That's money that you should be putting towards your debt and stuff like that. I absolutely get it. I do. However, I also believe that it's kind of like a diet. And if you become too restrictive, it's going to backfire. Now, what I've done for this is I allocated $150 a month. Within that $150, I am including the 30-ish dollars that it costs for Netflix and Disney Plus. And I'm also not saying that we will spend $150 a month, but I do want to at least try and save $150 a month to be available for us to do something out. And really, the money that we've been spending, at least in the past, I don't think you can really categorize it under these kinds of things in the normal sense. It's just been just random stuff. Random stuff. But anyway, so for the groceries, we talked a little bit, and we have been spending between $130 and I would say like $180 a week on groceries. We're just two people. I mean, yes, we have a lot of pets, but we're only two people, and that just seemed really, really expensive. Even keeping in mind that inflation has gone through the roof and costs have increased to ridiculous amounts, it still felt like it was a much larger than we should be spending on a weekly basis. So we talked and agreed that $100 per week seemed doable. So we're going to do the cash envelope stuff. And I'll be honest, this is, new for me, doing the envelope thing. But whereas in some cases on some videos I've watched, the idea of the envelopes didn't really make sense to me. For certain items, it does make sense to me for groceries. It does make sense to me for entertainment. So technically, my plan is, excuse me, I had a cough, to actually just save $120 in cash, because 30 of it is going to be handled digitally through, paying automatic payments. That made sense to put into an envelope and save the money, and then here's what your limit is. It's very, very easy to go over a limit or ignore a limit or not be aware of how close or over a limit you might be if you're just using your debit card, or God forbid a credit card. So some of the things that people have done have been like, subscriptions and oh gosh, I can't remember. There were a couple of other genres or subject types of things that people were doing envelopes for, and I just didn't understand what the point was. If you have to go out, pull the money out after you get paid, put it into an envelope, and then turn around and go and deposit it back into your account so that you can pay the bill, because 99% of the stuff that at least that I do is paid online. That seemed like a waste of time and energy to me, for a lot of kind of payment things. But what works for other people, who am I to judge that? But at least for me, I don't think that the envelope method will work very well. Now, if we get to a point where we're like, oh, vacations, we want to try and save up for that, yes, I could see an envelope process would make sense for that. The other goal is, if we don't utilize the entirety of the allotment for the month, then I am going to have a separate envelope for overage. I don't know, is that called a sinking fund, maybe? I don't know all of the verbiage. I don't know, all of those touch phrases and stuff like that. But that money will go into a secondary envelope. And if we get to a point where we've amassed enough that we can, significantly help one of our big debts to get paid off, then that's probably what we'll do. Or alternatively, we can use those extras to help bulk up our emergency fund. So I think that's it. Yeah. So I don't know. That's where we are. It's where we stand as financially and what we're dealing with. The job going away is very, very scary because I'm not entirely sure how we are going to be able to move forward on paying off this debt, even if I do get a job, because it's going to be much less money coming in. And just at a minimum standpoint, the job I get, I can't be open to just anything. There is a minimum that we're going to have to bring in order to be able to pay just the general cost, not even thinking about, hey, let's pay extra so we can start to bring stuff down. So I don't know. And there's of course absolutely the worry that I won't find a job very quickly. And there are folks who, during the first round of layoffs, when the bankruptcy initially happened, which is a few months ago now, that I'm still in contact with, they haven't found jobs yet, and not for lack of trying either. So that makes me incredibly nervous. Now, I know some folks would say, hey, you should be out there trying to secure a job before this one goes away, so that there is no gap in the pay. And I do agree that normally that would be the process that I would use. But on the one hand, on first of all, I know the amount of money that I'm bringing in, and I can't guarantee that the next job that I get will be giving me that amount of money. And to me, it doesn't make sense to rush to a position where I am bringing less money in. Additionally, as long as I don't voluntarily leave, if I get laid off in 2 weeks, in a month or whatever, I will be eligible for a severance. And while I think the severance is going to be maybe about a month's worth of wages, which isn't huge, it's not going to bridge that gap for very long, it is still an additional amount of money that if I go and find another job, I will not be eligible for. I will, sorry about the glare, by the way, but I will be eligible for unemployment if I'm not able to find a job quickly. So that is a plus, but obviously it is not going to replace most of the wage that I'll be losing. So yeah, so that's where we're at. If you've stuck with us to hear kind of our story and where we are, I appreciate it. I would love for folks that are in this community who have experience with, attacking debt of this nature, maybe even being in a somewhat similar situation, that have any words of encouragement, words of advice, ideas on how we can move forward, especially in light of what the future is absolutely going to bring, though we don't know exactly when. Please leave a comment with that information, because I am open to all of that. And I do appreciate your guys' attention, and I look forward to seeing what kind of feedback or information might be out there. I'm not entirely sure what my next video will be. I guess at some point it will be, kind of showing what we've paid. I will say I did go to the store yesterday, and I did not have our cash thingies, so I did use my debit card at the grocery store. So I kind of just outlined our grocery amount so that I can make sure that we keep that in mind when we do go on our regular grocery day, which typically is Thursday. that instead of having $100, we only have 75 to work with. And I figure that as I make payments, I'll document them in this calendar as well as on this. So I'll be duplicating efforts, but I don't know, maybe in doing so, that'll really help certain things hit home and help us, at least on the spending money side, to make sure that we're not spending unwisely and are better at tracking what we are spending our money on so that we can see, hey, this isn't good, this isn't okay, this isn't necessary. All right. Thank you. I hope to see you again whenever we do our next video, and I hope you have a marvelous evening. Bye-bye.